Hello guys, welcome to another video. This time I have here the Nicolai ION G16 and the ION G13. This is the illustrative model that I used, okay? Nicolai sent me the coordinates for the pivots, so the results are very accurate. First of all, we have to determine the instant center, okay? The magic point, also known as the virtual pivot. As you know, on horse-link bikes, you need to see the pivots, and then you make the crossing lines, and the intersection point is the instant center. Now that you have this magic point, you can easily determine the anti-rise, okay, the braking behavior. And to do that, you just cross a line between the rear contact point and the instant center, okay? So this bike has an anti-rise of around 60%, which is a normal value for an horse-link bike. And this value means that the amount of rotation of the brake caliper around the disc is not much, okay? So you got here a very good balance between geometry and brake independency. This graph just represents how the anti-rise changes across the travel, and as you can see, the ION G16 and G13 are very similar, okay? They use a similar layout for the suspension, so the results are very similar. Good, so moving on to a more important parameter, the anti-squat, okay? The parameter which determines the pedaling efficiency of the bike. To determine this value, you already have the instant center, so now you cross the line between the axle and the instant center, which is the swing arm line, okay, and we will see where this line crosses the chain line, okay. So as you can see, it crosses at that point here, and it crosses at that point for every cogs, okay. Independently of the cog that you are using, the chain line will always cross the swing arm line at that position there, okay? So this means that the anti-squat of this bike will be very close to 100% at the sag position, okay? Independently of the rear cog, okay? So the bike is very well optimized for pedaling efficiency. And as you can see in this graph, which represents the anti-squat values across the travel, you can see that at the sag position, okay, on the pedaling zone here, the anti-squats are around 100%, okay, and very good anti-squats independently of the cogs of the cassette. This graph is for the G16, but the G13 is very similar, okay, 100% anti-squats around that for every rear cogs. Good, so both G13 and G16 are very good pedalers. As you might know, to have anti-squats, you need to have chain grow, okay? Unless you have a high pivot bike, on high pivot bikes you can have good anti-squats without having chain grow, but on traditional bikes with low pivots, you need to have this chain grow in order to have the chain pulling, okay? So basically the chain is pulling down the suspension, eliminating the squats, okay, the bob caused by the horizontal acceleration of the rider. Okay, so the chain grow is basically the result of this distance, okay, the bottom bracket axle distance, and as you can see, this distance increases during the travel, okay, and in this case the G16 has a 22 millimeters of chain grow, which is a good value for a bike that pedals so well. And as you can see, both ION G16 and G13 have a very similar chain grow profile. Just a small note, the more chain grow you have, the more pedal kickback you have, okay? Because since the chain is growing, is pulling back the pedals, okay? The pedals are rotating back because the chain is pulling back the pedals, okay? So chain grow is proportional to the pedal kickback. To compare this with other bikes, I've drawn this graph which represents several bikes, okay, represents the chain growth of several bikes, and the ION G16 is this one, the green line. And as you can see, we can separate these bikes in three groups. The bikes that have a very high chain growth, the bikes that have a normal optimized chain growth, and the bikes that have low chain growth. The bikes that have high chain growth, they just have high chain growth because they have huge anti-squats, too much anti-squats, or because they are not well optimized, okay? These ones, the ones that have low chain growth, this is just because they have low anti-squats, okay? So the pedaling efficiency is also low. This group here, where the ION G16 is included, they have normal values of chain growth, okay? The minimal values of chain growth needed to have such a good pedaling efficiency. So you can't drop these values much more than this, unless you are using an high pivot bike, as I said previously. Good, so moving on to leverage ratio, okay? Leverage ratio is basically the ratio between the travel at the wheel and the travel at the shock. Okay, and the way that this ratio changes across the travel will determine the progressivity of the suspension. And in this case, the Nicolai have a very progressive suspension, as we are going to see right now. Okay, so this is the leverage ratio for the G13 at orange and the G16 at blue. And as you can see, you have a continuously decreasing leverage ratio. And a very interesting aspect is that since the suspension layout of both bikes are similar, in this case, the more travel the bike has, the more progressive it will be. Okay, I'm simulating the ION G16 as a 150 millimeters bike, but you can increase the travel on this bike to 170. And if you do so, you will get more progressivity. By comparing the progressivity of several bikes, you can see that the Nicolais are quite progressive, okay, and they appear at the end of the table. The G13 has 45% of progressivity, and it's probably the most progressive 130 millimeter bike in the market. So a progressive bike just means that you have a high leverage at the initial travel, okay, so very smooth or very sensitive suspension, at the same time you have a lower leverage at the end of the travel, so you get the bottomless feeling, okay? So on big jumps and bigger impacts, the suspension will be very smooth at the end of the travel. You don't feel that harsh impacts at the end of the travels. In addition, the G16 is also very progressive, and if you use the G16 with the more travel version, you will get more like 10% of progressivity. So on both bikes, you won't need much bottom out spacers, or you don't need much high speed compression to avoid those annoying harsh bottom outs. Okay, so the suspension will be very good. Okay, to conclude, both ION G13 and 16 have a very good pedaling efficiency with anti-scuds around 100%, and the chain grow and pedal kickback is very well optimized for such good pedaling efficiency. Okay, so they are under normal levels. The braking is okay. There is a good balance between traction and geometry, with anti-rises around 60%, a normal value for a horse-link bike. And finally, the progressivity is quite substantial. Okay, these suspensions are truly progressive without being too much. And you will get, as a consequence, a smooth initial travel and a good bottom-out resistance at the same time. Okay, so overall I would say that Nicolai knows what they are doing, and they just made two great bikes with a very well optimized kinematics. Okay guys, so that's all for today. I hope you like this video for the Nicolai bikes. If you like it, please give a like, subscribe and share with your friends. Okay, that's it. See you soon. Bye.